In the heart of dark valleys, there is a river that defies logic. Its waters flow, but then return upon themselves, as if they knew secrets no human should discover. The inhabitants avoid its banks, whispering of travelers lost in its endless meanders. Every night the river pulses, alive, reflecting not the stars, but faces, eyes, and cries trapped in its interminable flow. No one who followed the river beyond its bends returned the same, or returned at all. Whispers run along the current, calling forgotten names and promising forbidden knowledge. The water moves in a supernatural way, dragging anything that approaches into its spiraling depths. If you step on its banks at night, the river watches, waits, and may condemn your fate to repeat itself forever in its sinister embrace. In the heart of shadowy valleys, there is a river that seems to defy nature itself. Its water flows, but returns upon itself, bending time and space. The inhabitants avoid its banks, whispering tales of travelers who have disappeared in its endless meanders. Evelyn adjusts her backpack, taking a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the current that twists and turns as if it had a life of its own. Marcus, behind her, photographs the dark surface, trying to capture each strange reflection that shines in the moonlight. Lila watches nervously, her lips slightly parted, memories of old stories swirling in her mind. Samuel, notebook in hand, jots down symbols carved into stones near the bank, worried about what he might find further on. The river stretches ahead, winding its way, reflecting the moon in shades of silver and black. A low mist covers the surface, and small ripples create illusions of impossible movement, almost as if something were hiding just below. At first glance, it seems like just a curious, enchanting, and mysterious river. But beneath its surface, something watches, something patient, intelligent, and hungry. The silent surrounding forest, the twisted trees, and the cool breeze heighten the feeling that every step is being watched. The group moves forward, each sound echoing between cliffs and ancient trees. A branch breaking, a leaf falling. Everything seems excessively loud. The river is not just water. It is a mirror of ancient secrets and an intelligence that awaits the right moment to act. And the moment approaches, silent and inevitable. The villagers warned us, don't follow the current beyond the last bend. But curiosity pushed us on. Small signs began to appear, footprints leading back to their starting point. Whispers carried by the wind, distorted reflections in the water that disappeared when we tried to focus. Lila stepped back, trembling, her eyes fixed on an impossible bend in the river, where the water seemed to swirl upon itself. Evelyn moved forward, each step measured but with visible determination, trying to understand what made that river so strange. Marcus, behind her, frantically adjusted his camera, capturing impossible angles, while invisible hands seemed to scratch the surface of the water in subtle movements, sending shivers down the spine. Samuel hesitated, notebook in hand, murmuring theories about ancient curses and distorted natural phenomena. He pointed to symbols carved into rocks on the banks, which seemed to pulse in the moonlight. Each bend in the river revealed a new impossibility. Currents that receded on their own, reflections of trees that no longer existed, and shadows that contorted unnaturally, disappearing when we looked directly at them. And then we noticed something even more disturbing. A fleeting shape, a translucent hand trying to emerge from the endless current, vanishing before we could reach it. The first disappearance happened silently, almost imperceptibly. A muffled cry, swallowed by the wind as if the river itself had sucked the sound away. The current seemed alive, intelligent, observing every movement, every breath. The feeling that we were being pulled into its endless flow grew with each step. The surrounding forest became denser, the wind colder, and the fog thicker, as if the river were warning us that our presence would not go unnoticed. On the third night, fear hung over our camp like a heavy fog. Every noise seemed amplified, the rustling of leaves, the creaking of trees, the distant murmur of the river swirling on its own axis. Evelyn and Marcus tried to document every anomaly. She, with a keen eye, examined impossible reflections in the water. He, adjusting flashlights and cameras, recorded angles that seemed to defy reality. Samuel was focused on deciphering ancient symbols carved into the riverbanks, scribbling frantically in his notebook. He spoke of curses, forgotten tragedies, and trapped spirits, his deep voice a mixture of fascination and terror. Lila, visibly shaken, kept warning us to retreat, recalling old stories of travelers swept away by the river, who never returned. If this interpretation is making you rethink this story, leave a comment below with your perspective. These videos are meant to provoke reflection, and I read all the comments. And if this type of content interests you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. Each step closer to the current increased the feeling that the river was watching us. Footprints appeared and disappeared mysteriously, as if the water controlled the space around it. Lanterns swayed on their own, shadows lengthened and twisted unnaturally. And sometimes whispers echoed, carrying names none of us knew, an invitation or a threat, impossible to discern. One night Marcus noticed something strange on his camera, the reflection of a ghostly figure on the banks which disappeared when he looked directly at it. Evelyn felt chills down her spine, the sensation that something or someone was always one step ahead, always out of reach. The river was not just water. It was a living presence, manipulating space, bending reality, playing with our perception. Fear began to mingle with fascination. It was impossible to ignore the strange beauty that concealed a silent and lethal danger. Each bend promised answers and traps. Midnight arrived with absolute silence. The river, already strange, now seemed to pulse, its current swirling as if it had a will of its own. The water reflected silvery and red hues, creating the illusion that it was alive, breathing. Evelyn screamed when she saw a shape emerging from the surface, a translucent hand that seemed to try to grab her, disappearing the next instant. Lila stood paralyzed, her eyes wide, unable to move. Marcus tried to capture the scene with his camera, but the lens shook, registering only impossible shadows and distorted reflections. Samuel uttered incomprehensible words, attempting some ancient protection or enchantment, but their voices were swallowed by the invisible roar of the river that seemed to respond to their efforts. One by one, the group members were drawn into the depths. Evelyn struggled against the invisible force pulling her, her hands gripping tree trunks and rocks, but the current was stronger than any attempt to escape. Marcus screamed, trying to reach Evelyn, but felt the ground disappear beneath his feet, dragged away as well. Samuel and Lila vanished almost without warning, swallowed by the swirling current, leaving only waves and echoes of screams. The river calmed down afterward, as if nothing had happened. The moon reflected only black waters once more, still and serene. But the echoes of terror remained, resonating in the mind of anyone who dared to approach. Each bend, each whirlpool, was a reminder that the river not only existed, it watched, punished, and consumed. The silence that followed was heavy, absolute. Nothing moved. The air seemed heavy with the weight of what had occurred. The feeling was clear. The river does not forgive, and those who try to defy it become part of its endless cycle. Dawn arrived slowly, tinging the sky with pale shades of gray and orange. The river returned to its tranquil, still appearance, as if nothing had happened during the night. No sign of the team remained, only small ripples on the surface and the silent echo of screams swallowed by the supernatural current. The villagers watching from a distance merely shook their heads in silence. They knew that some truths should never be sought, and that the river holds memories and horrors that defy human comprehension. Curiosity and courage have a price that the water exacts mercilessly. The banks remained shrouded in low-lying mist, and the air held the chill of fear. Footprints mysteriously vanished, as if the river itself were rewriting the reality around it. The feeling of being watched didn't fade, and every sound, every movement, seemed to echo the reminder that nothing there was safe. And the river continued to twist upon itself, patient, silent, eternal. A reminder that nature can hide ancient secrets, and that human curiosity can be deadly. And if anyone dares to return to those waters at night, perhaps they will never be able to break the cycle, becoming just another echo trapped in the river's currents. The river waits, It always waits. If you enjoyed this approach and want to continue exploring stories that are almost never told this way, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And now, click on the video that's appearing on the screen. It directly complements what you just watched and may completely change the way you see this story.